to those, and so we have copies available for anybody. It was regarding a public comment that was made and just summarizing it in a different manner. So.
And Erin, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes. Thank you. All right, 3, 2, 1. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, special recognition, 8.1, Healdsburg Junior High School recognizes 2024 California Distinguished School. Woo-hoo!
Is this on? There we go. I just wanted to take a few minutes to recognize the outstanding staff and students at Healdsburg Junior High. So it was actually a huge surprise to open the email and see Healdsburg Junior High on the list of distinguished schools. Distinguished schools back in the day, well, we didn't apply for it, and back in the day, this is why. So it used to be something you applied for up until 2 years ago, and so you would apply as a school. You'd have a visitation committee come, and they would validate the programs that you were highlighting in your application, and you'd get it or you wouldn't. I have actually been on a committee visiting to validate them. But it changed post-pandemic, and it is now completely driven by data and outcomes for kids. And so super excited to say Healdsburg Junior High made significant progress in closing the achievement gap, which is why they were selected by the state of California without any input or us asking for this recognition, one of only 3 secondary schools or schools at all in Sonoma County being recognized. So it's a huge honor, a testament to Nicole Odeto's leadership as principal and to all the hard work that the teachers do and how the students respond to that. So we also have English teacher Jamie Kiff here in the audience who deserves recognition. So yes, so a round of applause for Healdsburg Junior High staff and students.
And Chris, I love that your email stated that they didn't do it alone, right? So I want to thank Fitch Mountain and HES for all of your work to help prepare our students so that they do it that well.
Yeah, and I was going to say it is a culmination of their education up until that point. So obviously everybody has poured into them, and we're seeing tremendous outcomes throughout the district for our kids. So really proud of that. We are going to have a team go to Disneyland for the presentation from the state superintendent. So that's exciting in May. And
I'm the president, so I get to go.
We can talk. And that's a customary thing with distinguished schools. We've got banners on order that'll be hung at the school, but just couldn't be more excited for them. And it's just a great recognition for our school and for our community. So.
I too would just like to congratulate the junior high school. Having been a junior high school principal, I was telling Chris that I said, it took me 3 years. I said, and as a principal, and Mr. Detto did it in 2 years, and he said, no, 1 year. So congratulations again to the principal, to the certificated staff, to the classified staff, and again to the supporting schools, the elementary schools. Thank you very much. And high school, no pressure.
Okay, well, moving on to public comments on consent and non-agenda items.
We have a celebrating our success.
Oh, we have another? Oh, sorry. Oh, yes, we did. Sorry. Celebrating our successes. Healdsburg Junior High School Junior Internship Program.
So I'm very pleased to introduce Dave Hubble and 2 of our students, Eamon and Crystal, are going to come up here in just a minute. We've been doing this for 12 years, I think, and I've had the great pleasure to be present in the evening of the student presentations for most of those years. I told Mr. Hubble this the night of the presentations. Every year they get better. Every student in my room knocked it out of the park. From students who were nervous or may have struggled in school in the past, but they were all prepared. They all had great placements. They all learned. And I just want to thank Dave for kind of upping the ante and finding new mentors and new internship placements and continuing to support our students. So it is a night of celebration and learning. So I'm going to invite Dave, and do you want to have our 2 students come up right now too?
I'll give a quick
Okay.
and then I'll invite you guys up. Great, thanks. And yes, thank you. Internship night is always a great highlight, well, for everyone, the community, the mentor businesses. And this past one was no exception. I mean, uniformly, I heard unsolicited, nonstop flow of this was incredible. I'm so impressed with the students, and how do you prepare them? And as much as I'd like to take all this credit, really, it's a foundational thing. I wouldn't have taken this job unless I knew the foundations were in place to sort of make this a great thing, which it has been. So I think there's a whole bunch of work that's done behind the scenes across the entire year to work up to that night. So with that, let me just give you a few highlights on this internship season. We had a big junior class, 132 juniors explored a whole different, wide range of different careers. Finance was very strong, law as well, business and marketing, and natural sciences, marine biology, and healthcare, which healthcare is usually always in the mix. These other two, finance and law, and the business marketing, it was a back and forth negotiation with the mentors to take, really in some cases, double the amount of students they were taking. And they were managed to have really quality internships in that. But the program, is driven by student interest, and it's great that we have these mentor businesses that show up and, take it upon themselves to invest. With that, we did bring on some new mentor businesses. Real quick, Amy's Kitchen is new to us, and in that area was food science specifically. So we were able to get a student in there who was very driven in sciences and culinary, and that ended up being an incredible internship. And that took a lot of back and forth. They were very resident to have anyone under 18 in that type of setting. But we found a way forward. The mentor was thrilled. So much with the whole activity that I did get a call from their recruiter to ask me, well, what are you guys doing? And how can we do more? They want to open up other departments to us. So that's what we want. Paul Motter Gallery was an arts-related internship, and we had 7 students there, and that's sort of across many different art expressions and explorations. In the healthcare setting, we had Sutter Health, a student do neonatal nursing. Another student partnered with a local MD, kind of concierge medicine, right in town. 2 new mentors there. A student that was very interested in working with the environment and children, we were able to find a placement at Earth School, which is an experimental K-8 school. They call it a forest school. It's all outdoors in Schoen Farm. So that ended up being a great experience as well. Keysight Technologies, we had an engineering placement there. AV Film Center, which is kind of a new emerging business out of the AV Film Fest that will have cinema in downtown Healdsburg. They took 5 students in digital media, which they had a great experience, and they developed a marketing video out of that. Related to law, we sent 5 students to the Sonoma County Law Library, and then in addition, and you're going to hear more from Crystal about this, we brought on board an immigration and deportation defense clinic right here in town with a woman that is actually on staff at USF Law School, so around immigration law, so we were thrilled about that. And then finally, the city of Healdsburg really stepped up. Traditionally, we do a lot of placements with them in police and fire, but in addition, they worked with us to find a placement in HR, IT, and water engineering. So we had a total of 9 students spread across a couple different departments there. And they did an awesome job sort of holding that all together. So that's a quick recap. It's fun to do this type of work because, I see the students energized. I'm excited. I like working with all the businesses, and we're having a good time. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Crystal to give a little presentation on her experience, and then we'll hear from Eamon. Thank you.
While Crystal's coming up, I want to recognize the incredible work that Dave Hubble did. This is your second year, right? Doing this? Dave is semi-retired. He was in corporate sales, had a full career there, had his boys come through Healdsburg High School, saw this incredible opportunity to jump in, and he's really, Shelly Anderson did a fantastic job as coordinator, but Dave's really been value added, especially when it comes to working business connections with his experience and expertise in that. So Dave, thank you so much for finding this project.
Okay, well, hi, good evening. My name is Crystal Angel, and like Mr. Helpful mentioned, I interned at the Immigration and Deportation Defense Clinic. So before we begin, I want to start by giving you guys a little bit about me. So I am an Upward Bound, and I have been for 4 years now. I am also in Mile Club, and I am president of Mile Club, and I have been for 3. And all it stands for is Mexican American Youth Organization. So what we do is we spread awareness of our culture around the school. But outside of school, I play volleyball, and I'm a very big family-oriented person. And I'm also in First Generation by Corazon Healdsburg. So then, why immigration law? So I think I've always had a passion for social justice. I think that's really crazy how there are so many laws that are enforced out there, but only very minimal of them are actually enforced by the people who are supposed to protect you. And I've also, since I was there, I loved helping people. I think that being someone that people can always come to when they need help, it's a very good feeling knowing that they know that you're always going to be willingly able to help them. And then last but not least, I do come from immigrant parents, so growing up with that surrounding me really impacted my life and really made me open my eyes to seeing how many things my parents have had to hold back because of immigration status. So about my internship. So there's actually 2 offices of this immigration clinic. There's one in Healdsburg, but their headquarters is at the USF School of Law campus, where I got to go every Friday. And then my mentor was Jacqueline Brown. So she's actually the director of the clinic, but she's also a professor at USF, where she teaches 2 classes, but the one that I got to sit on was the Asylum Clinical class. And then what I did, I was like making referral lists. I was calling families and clients about the Asylum Clinic, which we actually held, and I was also scheduling appointments. So some highlights. Some highlights are being part of the Asylum Clinic. So like I said, on our last day of the internship, all the work that we did leading up was to that. So on this day, we're actually able to help over 20 to 25 families fill out their asylum application. And this day actually made me really open my eyes to knowing that this is a career which I want to pursue. It was very emotional, but it was also very eventful, being able to be more hands-on, and I realized that my emotions are something that I have to learn how to differentiate from my professional side. And then I also made new connections. I met so many people that can benefit me in the future, and this picture was actually right there. It was me inside the class where I got to sit on, and I got to observe every student that actually had their own case, which was really cool to see. And then also filling out the I-589. So basically what that is, it's the whole asylum application. It is a 12-page application. And it's very time consuming, but this picture right here is page 4, which is the most time consuming of them all. This is because it requires the family or client who you're helping actually remember and fast back to 5 years where they lived, where they went to school, where they've worked, and it's very important to get the exact locations of everything. If not, it could affect them in the future. So for me, it was really cool being able to learn about all this, and my mentor was actually, since day one, she let us be really hands-on. She told us and explained to us what we had to do, but she let us be free, which I actually liked compared to the other internships, because I got to get more of a feel about what the career is itself. And then some takeaways I took is that immigration law can be very emotional. It can be very impacting, but as you pursue the career, you have to learn and kind of manage your emotions. But because I am a very sensitive person, that's something that I will have to work on. And then also, it made it concrete in my mind that this is a career I want to take, and I know it's going to be a very long journey, but now that I have a little more foot in the door, it's going to be easier for me to be ahead of the people and my classmates that are also want to do this. And then some skills I developed were multitasking and communication skills, both which were really important to the career field itself. Multitasking was a little hard because as I was on the phone, I also had to fill out the application. So that's something, and there's a lot of background noises, but it got the job done. And then last but not least, I would just like to thank not only you guys for being here and getting to like hear me listen, but also especially the internship foundation and all the hard work that it actually took to for me to be able to actually do this. My mentor and just the school in general, I think that I was very fortunate to be able to have this opportunity, and I know that without this internship foundation, none of it would have been able to happen. And it's something that compared to other school districts, I think really makes us stand out, because this is a program where it allows students to make it in their head whether they want to actually pursue the career they want to pursue or not pursue it. And junior year is your most important year in high school, and applying to scholarships in the next year and colleges in general. So this really helped me in general. Thank you guys.
Do we get to ask questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I don't have a question. I was just gonna say, wow, because.
I think you would turn your mic on.
Chris. Just listening to you, I'm like super proud of you, and I'm sure your parents have got to be so proud of you. And you just did a great job presenting this information, and yeah, I can see you just making a huge difference in this world. So thank you.
Thank you.
I would second President Roman Flores' comments. I was impressed just sitting going, wow, wow, wow. I think I might have disturbed some of my fellow trustees. But I do have one question. So does this help you decide or help you in your decision in your future career once you get out of high school and then move on to wherever you're going?
It does. So I've actually, from the programs I am currently in, I've done a lot of internships and summer programs outside where I've been able to go to New York and take a poli-science class at Columbia University, and I go to Sonoma State every summer and I take classes there as well. So I've kind of been in that environment for a while now, but definitely it's something different for me to say, oh, I want to become a lawyer, oh, I want to become an immigration lawyer. But after this, being able to spend a day with a lawyer and do the work that they do, it completely changed it. And it just, for me, it made me more, yes, you want to do this. Yes, I want to do this. I want to make the impact in people's lives. I want to give them their American dream and the reason why they came here. And I think just seeing their faces the moment they walked into our asylum clinic, how nervous they were, to when they walked out with the biggest smile on their face, knowing that I'm a step more there. So I think, yeah, this definitely helped me make it concrete that this is definitely something I want to do.
That's great. Thank you. You're going to be great whatever you do. But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, my name is Eamon Scott, and I did my internship at the UC Davis Bodega Marine Lab. A little bit about me. I'm a junior here at Healdsburg High School. I play tennis for the Healdsburg High School tennis team. I enjoy it very much. Outside of school, I work at Shelton's Natural Food Market here in town. I'm working the cashier, stock and perishable, date checking, kind of all realms of the store. And why I kind of chose this as my internship, I've always been very interested in sciences, specifically the environment and marine ecology, marine biology. So I figured what better place than the Bodega Marine Lab that we have so locally. The Bodega Marine Lab is under the University of California, Davis. It's a research facility, meaning that they are in charge of conducting experiments, doing research, and achieving the 96th percentile, which is they call accurate or scientific significance. They're funded around $2 billion a year in order to conduct these experiments. And it's also a reserve area, meaning there's a lot of wildlife that they work hard to restore and fight for environmental stability. It's a seawater system, so they pump 400,000 gallons of seawater throughout the entire facility each day to ensure that the scientists and researchers have the best environment and abilities to produce that scientific significance. A little bit about the education required to be in this field. Of course, to be a professor, it takes a little bit more schooling than who I interned under, but the people I interned under said that it was nice to have a good general degree in science. That way you have more options for you. You don't have to, versus a specific course where you can only have a limited amount. He also said that experience in the field, such as diving, was very crucial to have because you do a lot of hands-on work in this career. And also he said sales was also very important, or sales experience, communication skills, so that you could reach out to future customers or employers. The typical day, we would meet around 9:30 at the Bodega Marine Lab. From there, we would take notes on animal classification or other topics such as career interests or types of PVC pipes even. Then we'd move on to a mid-morning activity, which in that picture you could see I was learning how to make a siphon to clean out the tanks that the fish were in. After that, we move on to lunch and enjoy the nice natural essence of the Bodega Marine Lab. And then we move on to an outside activity, which was usually more hands-on, including a reserve hike or taking animals and going down to the harbor and collecting animals for the college classes that they offer at the facility. A little bit about my typical week. The first day I got an introduction to the faculty. I got a tour of the facility, and I was able to clean habitats where the fish were in. You can see my fellow intern Marin down there, again cleaning the tanks that the fish were in. The second day I learned about the white abalone mission that they're striving to complete. The white abalone is a species of abalone that is it's going extinct in California due to overhunting and withering disease. So they're working hard with using open spawning and breeding at the Bodega Marine Lab in order to restore the population. We also sat in on an invertebrate workshop and dissected an urchin, and we learned about how urchin is actually hurting the kelp that most of the animals near the Bodega Marine Lab live in, which is definitely harming the population. And then we also moved on to a reserve hike where we learned about the reserve under the mentor Luis Morales. Week 2, unfortunately, day 3 we couldn't make it happen because it was pouring rain. It was unsafe to drive there and to do the hands-on work they had scheduled for us. But day 4 we did some grass propagation and planting. You can see us taking apart the separate strands of grass and planting it to replace the invasive species that was harming the reserve. We sat in on a Sea Star lecture and we learned about what a fellow faculty member at the Bodega Marine Lab was doing in order to help restore the sea star population, which again has also been struck by the withering disease. And we did some more field work at the harbor, collecting fellow invertebrates and other certain species as well. Day 5, we did some morning notes and also learned about PVC, different types of PVC pipes, elbows, connectors, double-threaded, and then they kind of set us up for that because we had to sort and clean out their offices. Learned about the hands-on work that goes into the career. You can see we got it all cleaned up though. And then we also did some chitin collection, which is that top right species. It's an invertebrate that is stuck against the rock of the intertidal zones that you kind of have to pry off with a spatula type tool, which is very interesting. And then our final day, we did some more project work, sweeping out the offices. And then we presented our projects that we were able to work on. My project was about the flat porcelain crab, or the Petrolisthes cinctipes. It's a pretty small crab. It's about this big, 10 millimeters. They live in the intertidal zones here at the coast. And I learned that they're often found with a missing mandible because they often get into fights over mating and land. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Definitely a good thing to learn about. Overall, I learned some very valuable skills at my internship. I learned communication, whether it would be communicating with my fellow interns or asking questions to my mentors, all of which played into communication. I learned teamwork, collaborating where we would collect our animals, what type of species we'd look for, what we would be looking for. I learned time management, basing what time I would have to leave in the morning, when I should get my lunch, how much traffic we would experience, all played into time management. And I also learned a lot about the animal classifications of each species, such as the phyla, the kingdom, the genus, all of which I learned a lot about. And overall, this internship provided a lot of clarity for me. it definitely opened my eyes to what the career had in store, and it provided more hands-on activity and some more helpful insight to what the career would be like. I'd like to end this by giving special thanks to my mentors, Mr. Camp and Mr. Hubble, as well as the whole internship program as a whole, and for all of you guys for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm just so impressed. I just want to say I'm so impressed with both of you. Your communication skills are excellent, and your presentation is beautiful, and I learned a lot from your presentation. So thank you for sharing.
Of course.
And I also just want to say this is one of the best learning experiences at Healdsburg High, in my opinion. As a parent, I loved when my kids went through this experience, and every year when we have students come up and present your learning, it's just so inspiring and just wonderful that we provide this experience for kids. So just want to thank the district leadership as well for making this happen for our kiddos. So thank you.
So again, I second the president's comments, and I'd also, I guess two things. I think Mr. Hubble must have known I was a biological science major, so this is very interesting to me. And I've been to the lab there, and it's pretty cool. Again, the question: do you see this moving you in one direction or another down your lifespan, if you will?
I think it definitely provided some clarity for me, as that it is an option. I don't know if it's the option I want to take, but it's definitely not something that I could always fall on or use in my future.
Do you see moving into the sciences, let's say a degree in science or whatever?
Specifically this type of science for sure, but other stuff such as chemistry not so much.
I'm with you. Okay. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment? Just trying to stop me. I just wanted to thank Mr. Hubble for all the work you've done in this. I was there at that evening, and all the adults. I guess that's the other piece, is getting all the volunteers to come and listen to the interns speak and make this presentation. Many of them I know were Rotarians, and a lot of comments after, not just that night, but days after, where people were very, very impressed. So thank you for your work. Appreciate it.
Okay, so moving on to public comments on consent and non-agenda items. The public may address the board on any consent action item or item not listed on the agenda. Pursuant to the Brown Act, during this period, the board cannot consider issues or take action on any item not listed on the agenda. Time is limited to 3 minutes per person. Any public comment? All right, so moving on to approval of the consent agenda. Are there any questions, comments, motions to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Do we have a second?
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Public comments on agenda items. Members of the public have the right to address the governing board on any item or items of interest, providing it relates to the subject matter jurisdiction of the board. Your request to address the board will be heard at the time the item is being discussed. In accordance with Board Policy 9323, individual speakers shall be allowed a total of 3 minutes to address the board for a maximum of 20 minutes on each subject matter. With board consent, the president may increase or decrease the time allowed for public presentation depending on the topic and the number of persons wishing to be heard. The president may take poll of speakers for or against a particular issue and may ask that additional persons speak only if they have something new to add. Discussion, report, action items, school business 12.1A, feasibility, exploration of bond measure.
Okay, so it's my pleasure, he is still here, to introduce Mr. Greg Isom. He is going to talk to you about the possibility of us going out for another bond for elementary school campuses, specifically here in Healdsburg. So as you recall, we 9 years ago passed a $67 million bond for our secondary campuses, and we're in our very last project of that money this summer. Actually, there'll be a little left over for the entryway and grove area of the high school. But the biggest projects will be finished with the theater/wrestling room that is going to take place this summer. But our elementary campuses need help, and we have a beautiful aged building at HES built in the 20s that needs some updates. And we also have a campus that is newer, but is still upwards of 20 years old, that is starting to have some issues and needs some improvements as well. We do have a little bit of money left over that we are leveraging using state matching funds from our prior bond that we can use at the elementary campuses, but not enough to do what we would like to do. And you'll recall we had a long list of improvements that we did in our master planning process a year ago. And Greg has worked with us, gosh, for 15 years probably, but he's a great partner. I do want to give him some public recognition. He calls me up and says, we have an opportunity to refinance bonds that you guys currently have. About a year ago, we did a batch of bonds that actually went to some private investors, so they're not publicly held, and we saved the taxpayers like $1.5 million over the term of the bond. So Greg does a great job bird dogging for the community. With that, I'm going to turn it over to him.
Great. You're a little bit taller than me. Are you controlling the city, or?
I have to, sorry.
Oh, perfect, okay. So I'm Greg Isom with Isom Advisors. Chris and I have been working with the district since I believe 2010. I helped out with the bond in 2012, the bond in 2016. I think we've refinanced some of the outstanding debt maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe saving taxpayers close to like $5 million over the last 10 years. And so Chris called me and said, hey Greg, what are your thoughts about a school bond for the elementary site? And I said, well, you haven't done anything since 2002. So do you have the needs? And he says, yeah, we have some needs. So how do we kind of do this again? And so what I have here tonight is a bunch of numbers that you can probably just find off the county website, but I just put them on here, and I'm going to talk about the process, how bonds work, and what you can actually do for the elementary district. Okay, so the elementary district in 2002, they created something called a school facilities improvement district. Okay, so when we talk about an elementary bond, we refer to it as the Healdsburg SFID, which in that year, the district actually carved up the district and excluded Alexander Valley and excluded West Side. So when you do a bond only for the elementary schools, you have to create a school facilities improvement district, because Alexander and West Side voters cannot vote nor pay for elementary improvements to Healdsburg. Okay, so you'll see SFID, that's what that means. So on the right-hand side of the box, that's the history of the district. So 2002, passed an $18.8 million bond, 67.2%. No remaining authorization. You guys also approved the bonds in 2012 and 2016 for the high school boundaries. And so right now, the current tax rate, so someone that's in Healdsburg proper, paying on the SFID, is paying $27.50 per 100,000 of assessed valuation, okay? And so you're gonna hear me use this term assessed valuation, which is key as opposed to market value. So, you know, when districts go to voters and say we're going to do $27 per 50, it's based off of what the county says the value of your property is, not what it's currently worth. And I always give this example of my mother's home. You know, she bought it in 1974 with my dad. They're still living in the same house. And so while their assessed value is closer to $200,000, the assessed value is like $1 million. And so when it comes to school bonds, they pay off of the 200, not the million. And so that's a big distinction, especially for people in Healdsburg who have been living in their homes for the last 40, 50 years, whose properties might be significantly higher than what the value is. So they're actually paying kind of a reduced rate compared to someone who just recently bought their home, okay? And that chart kind of on the left-hand side where it has Healdsburg USD SFID historical assessed value. So that is the value of all the property within the boundaries of Healdsburg SFID. So you can go down to 2024, you can see it says 5.8 billion, okay? The right-hand side is the percent change, so every year, what has it been growing at? And you can see that since 2013, pretty much the last 10 years, you've been averaging 6.5% growth, which is fantastic, which is why your tax rate, where it says $27.50, that probably used to be closer to $40 or $50, but because your tax base has just been growing higher than what the assumptions were, you have a much lower tax rate to the community, okay? So you've had great tax-based growth, you have a low tax rate. That bottom bullet point is key as well. There's a term called bonding capacity, okay? This isn't how much you can do a bond for. This is just a term that goes on how much can you put your community into debt up to. Okay, there's a number where the state of California says you have to take your assessed value, the 5.8 billion, multiply it by 2.5%, take out the outstanding debt of 2.4 million, which gives you a current debt limit of $143 million. That's what the state of California says you can put your community into debt up to. Okay, so any questions on this page? I know it's a lot of info, a lot of numbers. Anything just staring at you, or can we go to the next one? All right, good energy. All right, so page 4 is if you wanted to do a bond at the maximum tax rate for the Healdsburg Unified SFID, $60. Go all the way over, you could generate $117 million. I don't know if you need $117 million. Don't shake your head. I've seen you spend money. No. But this is kind of what I'd say is what your biggest budget could be, right? And so you can see I actually gauge, this is a super basic analysis, okay? So I give a $45 tax rate, a 50 and a 60, and it gives you different tax rates that you can, or different amounts. So $45 tax rate, 88 million. And you'll see where it says Series A, Series B, Series C. So when you do a bond for $117 million, you don't get all $117 million all up front. You have to sell it in kind of different tranches. One, the most important is because the IRS says that you have to spend your money within a certain time frame. So there's no way you could even spend $117 million if you wanted to. So you have to kind of break it up in chunks, okay? So, as I said, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but one thing that Chris brought up, this is a great idea, was he says, well, Greg, don't we have our old bond falling off the books? So actually, your elementary SFID bond is officially paid off in 2027. So is there a way for us to wrap around the old debt so we don't have to put a new tax rate on top of our old tax rate? And I said, yeah, you can do that. We actually did that in Healdsburg in 2012. We did what's called a tax rate extension bond, where we don't increase the tax rate. We wait for the last 2 years to fall off the books, and then the new tax rate will kick in. Okay, so right now, with a $27.50 tax rate, if we just extended this tax rate, it would generate $49.5 million. Does that sound more in line with maybe what your needs are, or is that too high or less?
Probably high, yeah.
Probably high.
Unless you ask the principals.
49 million. So, as you said, so that's just, once again, that's your high watermark. So if you don't need 117 million, sounds like you don't, you should be looking at probably a tax rate extension, which you're going to have your tax rate's going to be below $30, okay? Which is extremely low for a unified school district. An elementary school district asks for a $30 tax rate, okay? So if you don't even need the $49 million, as opposed to selling in a chunk of Series A, B, C, you could potentially structure it where the tax rate will be lower and you'll only do it in 2 series of bonds. So maybe Series A will be 20 million and Series B will be 20 million. You can get all your money sooner, okay? So the possibilities are endless when it comes to how you want to structure a bond, when you want to access your money. But I just want to give you an idea on kind of, what your high water mark is if you wanted to go to the voters and ask, okay? So if we go to the next page after this one, is your voter demographics, okay? So while the school district may want to do a bond to access, additional funds for its elementary sites, ultimately it's up to your voters to decide whether or not they want to bless you with their vote, okay? So you'll see that your demographics are actually pretty good when it comes to tax measures, okay? So you have about 10,000 voters, majority of the voters are Democrats. You have a little bit of an older voting population, okay, when it comes to other school districts, even in Sonoma County, if you go kind of Bay Area. It's a little old, right? 40% of your voters are 65 and older, and why is that a key number? Is because these are the types of voters that don't have children in school anymore, especially probably elementary students, okay? They may have grandkids in school, but ultimately sometimes Healdsburg historically, even though they don't have children in school, they've generally been super supportive of their schools. They take a little bit of pride in what their schools look like, which is why they've been super supportive of their school bond measures, okay? So as I said, when it comes to potentially marketing it to some of these voters, you're probably going to stress less on, updated technology and maybe more on safety. I was going to have a terrible joke, but I'll save it for the next one. Okay, next page. I was gonna bring up like Matlock, but okay. So on page 7 here, voter turnout. Okay, so what we're left with right now, the March election cycle just went through, so there were 3 school districts on the ballot in Sonoma County for March. Extremely low turnout, probably one of the lowest turnouts in the history of primaries for the presidential election, and all 3 are actually winning right now. Okay. So your potential is the November presidential 2024, which your estimated voter turnout is going to be about 85%. Okay, and is high turnout good or is high turnout bad when it comes to doing bond measures? Any guesses?
Good.
Student? It generally is pretty good, right? Because when you have an extremely low turnout, it's the same people. So if you look at June of 16, June of 18, June of 2022, it's the same exact voters. And I can guarantee you that the electorate that came out on those dates is probably like 65% senior citizens, okay? Which generally, they're not as pro school bond or pro tax. Even though, as I said, they have the small assessed value, it's just kind of in concept of saying, what do I get out of this thing? So the higher turnout you have, generally speaking, the more support that you actually have when it comes on election day. Okay, so November 2024 presidential election, it should be an absolute circus, which is generally pretty good for school bonds because everyone and their dog is going to come out and vote. Okay, so on the last page where we go on what does it mean to, you know, where are we right now? What does it take? So this timeline, I couldn't make it to the last board meeting, so thank you for punting. So we're talking about what are the steps to be ready, or the steps of, is this something you guys actually want to consider, okay? So one is you have to have an updated needs list master plan. I assume you have something, which is probably why I'm here saying these are the needs that are associated there, okay? There needs to be a board meeting where you guys say we're going to explore the feasibility of a bond measure. I think that's what tonight potentially reads as. Because ultimately, you're not deciding whether or not you're going to do a bond tonight. What you're deciding is, are we open to the idea? Okay, and if you're open to the idea, well, all we're going to do next is we're going to do a voter opinion survey to where we're going to call 400 voters that match the demographics of who's going to show up in November. Okay, so it's not going to be 60% are going to be senior citizens that called, or 40% are going to be Republicans. It's literally going to be that voter demographics page that I just showed 3 pages ago. So the goal is to have, 40% of your voters that are 65 or older are going to take the survey. 55% of the people that take the survey are going to be Democrats. 20% of the people that take the survey are going to be Republicans. So that gives you a very good gauge on what person's showing up in November and how they're going to vote. If someone has never voted in their entire life and they're 52 years old, odds are they're not going to vote this November, and I can guarantee you they will not be called for the survey. Okay, so we want to have like a very good, demographic when it comes to performing and we still actually do phone calls. Shockingly, people will take a local issue survey. If I said, we're calling on behalf of the re-election of, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, people are going to hang up. You can say, hey, I'm calling on behalf of the Healdsburg Unified School District. People are generally going to say, ooh, something local, what's this call about? And they'll stay on and they'll take that survey, okay? So we do the voter opinion survey. It'll take about a week to 2 weeks to finalize everything. Bring back the survey results at your April board meeting. And if the results look good, that takes us to the next step. That doesn't mean you guys are full speed ahead, we're doing a bond. That just means green light, let's go to the next stage, which is let's talk to some community members, some key stakeholders, maybe city council member, a fire chief, supervisor, someone who lives in town whose opinion matters, okay? Or maybe they think their opinion matters, right? So there's a list of about 8 to 10 people. We did it last time in 2016, and we're just asking their opinion. Hey, would you be open to the idea of a bond? What if you knew it's going to be for these facility improvements? What if you knew it's going to be for this tax rate? What if you knew it's going to be that we are not even going to increase the tax rate? Is this something you could support? And if the community members, stakeholders say yes, and the survey says yes, you kind of marry the two, and that is a winning bond program. And the reason why you wanted to do this process is you don't want this to be the Chris Vanden Heuvel bond, right? You don't want this to be, the board members' bond measure. You want this to be the community's bond measure. And what you're doing is you're giving them a voice early on before we waste our time. Because if they say no, well, then we pull the plug and we don't do it. But if they say yes, all you're doing then is approving a resolution at your June board meeting, and you're giving them the opportunity to officially vote on it at the November election. And that's the process. I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I don't actually have a question. I just wanted to thank you for coming, Greg. And I just wanted to say, and I actually said this at our last meeting, that I'm really, really impressed with what the district's done with our last bond. I think that the more that you look into what has the results in our facilities from that bond, it would just be impossible to me to not be supportive of the work that the district's doing. I just think we see so many improvements for the students, so many improved facilities, dramatically improved. And I happen to be like, I absolutely love the HES building, and I think the opportunity to upgrade the front of it to be accessible and to be improved and modernized while keeping, this really important historical building in our town. It's really exciting. So I have a lot of confidence in kind of what can happen through this bond. And so anyway, I thank you for your presentation and look forward to moving forward. Sorry about that.
So this is an action item. So we have a motion to approve the feasibility exploration of bond measure.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you, Rose. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
Great.
That's exciting.
We'll talk soon.
Thank you for coming, Greg.
Um, 12B, Citizens Bond Oversight Committee, Measure D, Annual Report.
So you see a familiar face. Former trustee Donna Del Rey is, yes, back. Donna was duly elected as the chairperson of our Bond Oversight Committee.
I was the only one who offered. Duly elected. Well, and last year they had one meeting.
Yeah, it's low commitment.
Yeah, although I will say, Mindy somehow was the president last year, never had to do a presentation, so I don't know how you did that.
She did it.
Oh, you did?
She did it,
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, never mind. So speaking of bonds, I'm representing the Measure D bond from, this is the 2016 bond, that was the $67 million bond that Chris just referred to. And this is required by law, this annual presentation to the board and to the public about the status of that bond and the oversight. This is the current bond oversight committee members. Do we know, have we filled that? You would said there might be somebody filling that.
Yeah, there is. Later on the agenda, we're going to hopefully approve an additional bond oversight committee. And let me just run through these folks. David Jones has been on it for a long time. Jerry Anderson as well. He was a former architect who's retired. Actually did original design work on the high school. We have a vacancy for another parent of a student. Mindy Kiff has been on for 2 years now. Is that right, Mindy? Longer? 4? Time flies. Yeah.
It's
when
really
you're
hard.
having fun.
It's hard work.
And then Tanya Whalen Juso is new this year. She is a retired teacher and administrator, most recently in Geyserville, and is a grandparent to some students that are in our schools. One at the high school, and then 2 that graduated, and then finally we have Donna, who's back. So Donna, thank you for stepping up. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. So again, this is an annual presentation. The duties of the Bond Oversight Committee is to basically, again, inform the public about the district's expenditures related to the bond, spending of the bond monies. What the main thing the committee does is review the expenditures, which really for us means reviewing an audit of the expenditures, which is done by an independent group, and the auditing body is changed every few years for fresh eyes that look at the spending and to make sure that that we're spending it on the right things. I think all of you would know that when you have bond money, and in this case it was secondary, it had to be secondary. And it has to be spent on capital improvements. You can't use it for salaries. You can't use it for educational purposes or curriculum, even though sometimes the general public doesn't get that. It has to be for improvements and capital expenditures. So that is what we're reviewing, and then we give an annual report, which is what this is every year. The committee met in April of 2023. And that was at the end of all the work that had been done on the high school, of the junior high. So the committee did a tour of the junior high, looked at turf, all of the stuff that had been done, which is all still fantastic. Got an update on upcoming construction projects, reviewed the bylaws, elected Mindy at the time, and as the chairperson, reviewed the expenditures and then prepared the annual report. And the committee didn't meet in the fall because really the construction activities have, tapered off. There was really no reason to meet. And then the committee met again last week. We did pretty much the same thing, but focused on the high school and the work that was done in the last, up until June 2023, which is a little confusing because we're almost now to June 2024, right? And we've done a lot more. So this is only through June 2023. So I won't go through all of these, and anyone who's been walking around the high school sees a lot of what's happened, but those last, that chunk of money was primarily spent on a lot of classroom updating. A lot of work had been done in the first phase, but there were still things to do that finally got done before June 2023. And this is all the projects that went into the Measure D, the full 67 million, but in that last year, ending June 2023, was really the last bits of updating the classrooms. And, I don't know, I won't go through all these, but this is 2016. By the time you really got started, what was it, 2018 probably, 2017, 2018, so this is 6 years of projects, a lot of projects. So the fund balance basically at July 1st, 2022 was 18 million. There was 1.6 million in expenditures over that period through June 30th. There's interest income because that money, again, we've sold the bonds, the money's sitting in the bank, it's accruing some interest, and the ending fund balance was 16.8. And then there's some nice photos of, I love how the photo of the before is actually the deconstructed classroom. That's really funny. They didn't look quite that bad when the students were sitting there. But they really did, they went through, and I think that windows are upgraded, the carpet was updated, there's finally whiteboards. I mean, it's a lot of new lighting. The HVAC had already been done, but a lot of work done. And it was really nice to tour the classrooms and see the newly updated spaces. Next, coming up, spending the last bit of money of the 67 million is the last bit is the modernization of Frost Hall that Superintendent Vandenheuvel mentioned, that I won't really get into here, but that work will start this summer. And really from June 2023 until now, there hasn't really been much happening in this past year, finishing the high school things in 2023 and now getting ready for this last project. So I think we're now, at this moment-ish, we're at about 5 million left to spend, most of which will go to the Frost Hall project, and anything left for the entrance, redoing the entrance, making it a little more clear how you get in and what you do, and doing something with our very sad Redwood Grove. Any questions?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Okay, moving on to 12C, 2022-2023 bond audits.
So here you have the bond from Christy White. So in the packet you have the bond from Christy White that has all the detail to what Donna was just speaking of. The expenditures for 22-23 were extremely low because we were in the design phase for Frost Hall most of the year. And just to compare that, we only spent 1.6 million all year last year, and we've already spent 5 million this year. So it's just the timing of when the year ends. We have a clean audit. There were no findings. And if the board would like to approve it, I'd be really happy.
Any questions, comments?
I move for approval of the bond audits 22-23.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. 12.2, student learning, Sunday Systems Intervention Curriculum. Did I say that right?
I think, yeah, okay. Hi, good evening. I'm happy to be here, and most happy to be here to introduce teachers who are here to speak to this item. Before I introduce them, just to kind of share a little bit about the changes we've made to our RSP intervention model this year. So we have been fortunate to have 2 RSP teachers this year who are also both doing intervention for general education students. Both the teachers are new to our campus, and it has been wonderful so far this year. And continuously throughout the year, they're coming and saying, we want this, which is awesome, in a good way. And so they're here to present tonight on the Sunday reading system, intervention system that we would like to purchase for use in intervention and with our RSP setting as well. So Emily Desept and Katie Cook. Emily is a familiar face in the district from being a graduate and also teaching at our other campuses, but new to Fitch this year. And then we're so excited that Katie's joined the team this year as well.
Yeah, hi, it's so nice to see so many familiar faces. Erica kind of already explained our model to you, but just to kind of give you a little bit more background of how we're working right now. We're seeing about 50 students between the 2 of us, and that number is a little bit fluid because we see both students with IEPs already, and then we're also seeing intervention students with the idea of if they do end up then needing special ed services at some point because they haven't made enough progress, we're already very familiar with them. It's just a little bit more fluid of a transition, so numbers fluctuate just a little bit there. We reevaluate student needs, student progress, our need, our progress, every couple weeks at what we call cost meetings. Sometimes that's putting our heads together, sometimes that's making new decisions. Yeah, we use a lot of data. And if you've ever talked to a special ed teacher, you know that there's absolutely no such thing as a special ed curriculum. It's both what makes our job exciting and horrifying all at the same time. So right now we have different curriculums that we're working with, but because our student population just has such different needs at different times, we're constantly pulling from different things to kind of create what fits for each kid. And so that's why we're talking to you about Sunday today. I'll let Katie talk to you about that part.
So the Sunday reading system it's a very structured, systematic curriculum. It's research-based, evidence-based, and it really aligns well with the science of reading principles. It also uses Orton-Gillingham principles, which are considered to be very, very effective for kids who may have dyslexia or dyslexic traits. And Sunday, it addresses decoding and encoding or spelling challenges and reading fluency. I've used it before at a few different districts, and it's been really effective. It really provides the necessary repetition that a lot of our students need, and lots of opportunity to apply and generalize the concepts that it covers. One thing that I really, really like about Sunday is how user-friendly it is. So even if staff doesn't have a strong background in or a lot of training in science of reading, it's very easily, like any staff member can pick it up and very easily implement it and do so with fidelity. So it would really kind of give more staff better tools to be able to address all of the reading needs at our school. It's also great because it's a Tier 2 and Tier 3 intervention, so it aligns nicely with the MTSS model, and it can be implemented in the general ed classroom. It can also be used as more of a pull-out special education intervention, but it's great because many people can use it very easily. So we're asking for System 1 and System 2 to be purchased so that we can just better address the needs of all of our students. Do any of you have any questions?
I have one. So you two obviously like this. Have other staff been exposed to this to give you feedback on their feelings, their take on it?
So far, no, we haven't really globally like talked about it. From where I've seen it implemented in other districts, people have spoken very positively about it, both general education staff and special education staff. So I feel pretty confident having used it also myself. The teachers would like it because it's very structured, very systematic. It's very, very easy for a teacher to pick it up and know exactly what to do without having extensive long-term training.
Is it similar to SIPs or is it really different?
It is similar to SIPs, but I've found that it's much more repetitive, which our students sometimes need. That's one kind of, I guess, criticism of SIPs is that it doesn't seem like it offers the same opportunity for just that level of repetition that a lot of our students with more significant needs really benefit from. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, so this is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll motion.
Okay, Crystal motions and Claire seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies, so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for staying through all the presentations, really appreciate it.
Okay, Emily, I take full responsibility for your success. No, just kidding. Okay, so moving on to 12.2B, installation of a peace pole at the Healdsburg High School.
So we have Principal Manriquez here to talk to us about where the peace pole is going to go and hopefully get your approval to put it there.
All right, good evening. So to my right is an actual picture of where we would like the peace pole to go. This is right outside the culinary classroom and kind of by the CASA classroom between those two trees. And so this would be an ideal location after consulting with students, staff, M&O, just lots and lots of people. And just a recap of it, one of our students who's actually pictured, Julian Johansson, and community member Kathy King, came to us a few meetings ago and presented on the peace pole, which is literally the 4x4, and the sleeve goes over it and has 6 different languages, and the message is "May peace prevail on earth." And the languages are in Arabic, Hebrew, English, Spanish, Hindu, Chinese, and Pomo. And so it's a really, really positive project in which students can gather around and really come together and celebrate the message. So looking for your approval tonight.
And I love that it came from our students. It's great that it originated there.
And if you don't know, it's right adjacent to the quad, so it's kind of central where kids congregate. So.
I have 2 questions. One is I've heard, this time it's not a rumor, that our shop class is building benches to go with this or around it. I'm just curious.
I think that's a possibility.
Okay.
You know, after it's installed, I think that's one of the possibilities that can happen, and to gather around the structure.
Okay. And then my second question is, have we ordered this pole?
Not yet. We need your approval first, and I think
We need our approval to place it.
And buy it.
And buy it. Oh, does that say that? Okay. Well, then I'll move that we buy and place the peace pole at Healdsburg High School near the culinary arts.
And I second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, so thank you. 12.2C, summer school planning.
All right, we're well underway here for getting a robust summer school plan going. So I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Next slide. Lots of similarities to years in past, so 2 3-week sessions for our high school students for credit recovery, so they can earn up to 2 semesters of credit in the same or different subject areas if they attend both. Next slide. The plan in terms of this is driven by student need, right? It's always how many kids need, and then can we get the staff to work in the summer. So approximately 60 students. English, both integrated math 1 and 2. So yay, 2 math teachers. Thank you, math department. Biology, we're considering maybe adding a physical science. We're kind of running the numbers. This is something that it really just depends on the number of students that need it and whether they can make it up during the school year or through Play-Doh. So there's a possibility we may add another science section. And then online coursework for other graduation requirements, some history, you know, where there's just a couple of classes, it doesn't make sense to run a full class. We provide support staff, so this is new, a counselor. We'll have a counselor there for the first 2 days and then the last day of each session. So, you know, the counselors have kind of been hustling and we try to do our best to make sense of it, but having, you know, a professional trained, our own counselor on in the physical building during, like I said, the first 2 days, and then the last day is to credit check and make sure your kids are scheduled correctly. So that's a new addition. 2 bilingual paraprofessionals and a bilingual school secretary. So for the junior high, what we're planning on is for rising 7th, 8th graders. So these are kids who are currently in 6th and 7th, going back to the UCube Summer Math Camp. That will happen during session 1, so a focus on math in session 1, and then thank you to Ms. Kiff, who has volunteered. We think we got to finish hiring. Yeah, that slide didn't get in the revised slide. She's yeah, no, right, yeah, yeah, Mindy. You've been teaching junior high summer school. That was also kind of a late ad, and I revised the slide, but it didn't get in here. So the students will have the opportunity to do math in the first session, and then ELA, ELD in the second session. One thing that you'll see that is absent from this slide deck is the Mike Hauser STEM Academy. We're going to take a rest from that for this year. We did last year. We tried to get students signed up, and what we're finding, and Crystal that was here tonight is a good example, that many of the same students that were doing Mike Hauser are finding that Upward Bound is a much more robust program. And so in a small school district, it's the same kids. And so last year we only had 2 students that didn't get accepted to Upward Bound, and we're also signed up for the Mike Hauser STEM Academy. So we're kind of re-envisioning how we might do that, the Mike Hauser STEM Academy, but it's not going to run this summer. And we're putting more energy into the Upward Bound program in partnership with Sonoma State. And you heard about Crystal's really great experiences that are not just that summer. It really launches them into you know, multiple years of access to post-secondary opportunities and other, you know, you heard she had to go out to the East Coast. So next slide. We'll continue to partner with the Migrant Ed program in collaboration with the Adelante program, and this serves grades 6 through 12. It's, you know, much more of the upper grade kids go, but it is available to our middle schoolers. In-person instruction at Santa Rosa Junior College. You know, I have to thank the Migrant Ed program. They do a really good job of helping us understand which kids could benefit from this, and our coordination through the counselors and the secondary summer school principal to pull it off. Bishop's Ranch, we got 2 weeks. 2 weeks. So our kids can spend 2 weeks in one of the most beautiful places, having some of the best time of their lives. So students could go for 1 week, or they could go for 2 weeks. They could go just for the second week. So we may have students that are there for a full 10 days. We may have some students that do first week and then not second week, and you catch my drift. Again, just another shout out to Greta Messick and the Bishop's Ranch staff. You know, so much behind the scenes work and fundraising. We provide transportation and a lot of organization, Erica McGuire and the Fitch Mountain staff, to make sure that students are getting signed up. We got all those permission slips going out and just the logistics that happens. But we are so thrilled that Bishop's Ranch offered us 2 weeks, and we'll be able to expand the program this summer.
Erin, question?
Yeah.
So for the the other programs that you've already mentioned.
Yeah.
What's the timeline? Is it a full day program?
Oh yeah, thanks. So I didn't mention, we could go back. The high school program and the middle school program is 9 to noon, so they can come in. We feed a healthy breakfast in the morning before class starts. Class starts at 9. The teachers take a break at some point. We kind of have a rotating break, and then we feed them, they end at noon and we feed them lunch. So the middle school, high school is 9 to noon. The elementary is a full day program, so it's a 6-hour program. And then we work really hard to support them to then go over to the community center as part of the expanded learning opportunities, so they can get 9 full hours of expanded learning opportunities. So it's a full day, 8:30 to 2:30, 8:30 to 2, and then we bus over any student that wants to continue their enrichment opportunity to the community center through the expanded learning program. And then once that summer school, our summer school on our campuses end, the ELO program continues through the summer. So that happens, they can continue to get expanded learning opportunities through our partnership with the city for the entirety of the summer.
And what about the Bishop Ranch?
Bishop's Ranch, yeah, they pick up at, I think it's 8 o'clock or 7:45 from the community center, and they get back at 5. So yeah, it's a full day. Yep, and they're tired because they do swimming and yeah, full day. So, you know, if you're a working parent, you can drop them off right before 8 and pick them up at 5 from the community center. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, here we go. That's the slide with the details. I knew it was there. I'm trying to go fast so you guys can get to break. So roughly 15 students for each grade level, right? There may be more, there may be less, just really depends on need and student interest as well, family interest. So these are for our rising first through 6th graders. So this allows summer program for all of our students except for incoming K and TK, right? So all of our kids who are with us right now, and I mentioned about the expanded learning opportunities to provide that 9 hours throughout the summer. Next slide. Just want to thank Debbie Odetto and her team, transportation to and from all programs. This is something to pull off in the summer, you know, when people want to take a break, and providing this level of transportation. I'm not sure if most people know this, but busing is not a norm in Sonoma County, right? That we still have busing, and not only do we do it during the school year, but that we provide that during summer for summer programs is such a gift to our families. And, you know, thanks to Debbie and our transportation team for hustling and working those extra hours, and also our food and facilities team, you know, providing these healthy breakfasts and lunch for students throughout the summer. So we're in, you know, deep planning right now. We've got summer school principals hired, so that's great. We've got administrative staff all set to go. We're working on hiring teachers, so that's on EdJoin right now. So we're getting all the teachers hired through the next month, and then you know, there's a little bit of identifying students and outreach to families, but really we don't want to do it too early, right? We're just started the 3rd trimester. There's a lot of learning yet to happen, and so that really starts to happen in earnest in May, and then we'll launch programs. We finish on a Thursday, Friday's graduation. We take that Monday to reset the buildings and do a professional development and kind of team day to get everything going, and then we'll launch this that Tuesday right after school starts, or ends. Kinder Bridge program, this has been very successful. We started about 3 years ago. So Tiffany Doherty and her team are set to launch this. Provides a really nice way for us to welcome our families in a little bit of a lower affective, play-based, get to know the campus. We can do some assessments so we get a nice mix of students, a real heterogeneous mix of students in class. It's also when we can knock out the initial LPAC, so we don't pull kids out of class. It's not like, hey, welcome to kindergarten, and now you have to get pulled out to do testing. So we do that before official school starts. Provide a little bit of parent training, right? How's drop-off gonna go? Working on those bathroom habits, all those fun things that our youngest kids need. And then, you know, the teachers are there to provide a jump start on some of that social emotional learning and working with them in the classrooms for just a little bit in the mornings. And that's it for summer. Any questions?
I do. I have a question,
Yeah.
Erin, regarding summer school at the elementary level. I'm assuming that, this is just an assumption, teachers sent out referrals to families saying, hey, you know, your student would benefit from summer school. Can parents opt out of summer school?
Absolutely, it's not required, and it's actually a problem, particularly for our middle school population.
Yeah.
They're like, please come, it'll be fun. And Rising Fifth.
And then just to like follow that up, could a parent who maybe feels like their student is like right at the cusp, right? Like they're doing well, but like they're kind of struggling. Like, would they be able to like
advocate
and say, like, hey, I think my student would benefit from summer school?
Possibly. It really depends on the data, right? It's a data-driven decision, so we take it on a case-by-case basis. You know, we don't ever want to say it's based on number of seats we have, but sometimes, you know, we don't want the classes to get too large so our neediest students don't get the service that they need. So I think it's, what I would communicate is it's always worth asking, and we'll work with the family, take a look at the data that's coming from the classroom and have a conversation with the family.
And then a third question is, the students who have like an IEP, would they, if a parent's advocating for like summer school, would they be more encouraged to participate, or it also just depends on?
It just really depends, right? Just because you're a student with disability doesn't mean that you need summer school. So really, we're looking at their achievement data, not necessarily whether they have an IEP or not. But they wouldn't be excluded. So I want to make that clear, that they would not be excluded if they're a student with disability.
And there are students with IEPs who have extended year minutes written into their IEPs, so they obviously receive services. So it's an issue about, like, specifically with the disability is then how they're progressing, and then what the team in the IEP has decided. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, great questions.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your report, Erin.
Yeah.
And then we have a 12.2D, update on Healdsburg High School Youth Equity Design Team.
So no slides, probably best to just take a look in the packet there. There's quite a bit of information. Direct you really to start with the cover sheet. We all know equity has been a central component of the work, and garnering the youth voice is a really important part of that. Empowering our students to amplify their voices as we make decisions and are on this continuous cycle of improvement. And so we're going to start again, I guess, with the same kids and a different facilitator. Over the past month or so, I've been interviewing with 4 or 5 different groups, revisited National Equity Project, Diversify Our Narrative, Youth Leadership Institute, basically, threw the net really wide to find a high quality facilitator to resume this work with our young people. Was thrilled to find On the Margins. On the Margins is based both in San Francisco and locally here. They already have established relationships with Corazon Healdsburg and the Healthcare Foundation, are starting up projects with Alliance Health here in Healdsburg. So they already have a footprint, not only in San Francisco, but in the North Bay. And there are a few students that have been working with, they have a group called DALE, which I think, Cristal, you're familiar with, and feel free to speak to, because you probably know more about it than I do. But it feels like a really nice fit. It's led by Dr. Daniela or Danny Dominguez. She is a Latina who has a psychology degree, and that background of the social emotional piece of it, and also they really lean on empowering youth through art and media. So that's a new element that I was really excited about, and honestly their footprint in Sonoma, but also this kind of unique way they go about facilitating, where they're going to bring artists in during the meetings with the students, so the students can express themselves in a number of different ways. There may be a mural that comes out of this. There may be songs or other types of artistic expression, so it's not just a PowerPoint slide deck and some kind of written report, but there's various avenues for students to express themselves and express their findings. So what's in the packet tonight is a contract with On the Margins. where we'll start developing this relationship. What we're proposing is 3 2-hour sessions throughout the next couple of months. So basically 2-hour session each month over the next 3 months as kind of a get to know you, both for our students, to get to know the facilitators from On the Margins and how they work, and then also for us to get to know this group a little bit better. The 2 hours, if they meet first thing in the morning and then through lunch, they'll only miss 1 class. So we're setting it up like that, or they'd meet at lunch and then miss 1 afternoon class on the block days. Try to limit the amount of time students are out of the classroom. So what you have before you tonight is a contract totaling $9,800 to get this project back up and running with On the Margins. Any questions or comments?
Yes. Whoops, try it again. Yes. How were the students selected to participate?
So goes back to the beginning of the school year. Our initial facilitator visited a staff meeting and provided some background of what a youth equity design team could be. And from that, she offered a Google form to all of the staff members at Healdsburg High to select, or pardon me, not select, to nominate a student, and really made a point that we wanted a diverse group of students, both in terms of their background, academic experience, their age, their gender, their basically every demographic field you could think of. And so there was about 45 students, I think, originally nominated, 45, 50 students originally nominated. They were all invited to a lunchtime meeting. I think about 20 to 25 of them showed up, right? So not all the nominees took our offer. 20 to 25 showed up to that initial meeting and learned more about what this would be and what the time commitment was. And then they said, yes, I want to do this, or no, I don't. And it worked out pretty well. I think there had to be a little bit of, you can do this for some of our younger students. It's heavily stacked with 9th and 10th graders. So of the 15 students, 10 of them are 9th and 10th. And then there's 3 11th graders and 2 seniors, with the idea that this is an ongoing project and we want the kids to see the fruits of their labor, right? Those 2 seniors that are going to graduate right now, they're going to be moving on to other pursuits. So it's, I feel pretty good about the demographic mix of the students. So that's what it is right now. Doesn't mean that it won't grow. We're going to see how this goes. My guess is that it might ebb and flow, hopefully get a little bit bigger as we get further underway, and that more students would be invited into the opportunity.
So essentially the same students?
It's the same group,
okay.
Yep. We're going to take those same group of students, just with a different facilitator.
And how will the faculty be apprised of what's happening, or this new, I'm going to call it consultant?
Yeah, so Chris sent out an email to the HHS staff towards the end of last week, letting them know what the plan was and kind of why On the Margins was selected. So right now, it's mostly us just telling them, here's the new facilitator, this is what's going to happen, 3 2-hour sessions, and we're excited to get this work going. The plan will be to bring adult allies and adults into the process, but it's kind of a go slow to go fast at this point, and slowing things down a little bit with the students in order to help them learn how to do this process a little bit more and have some high quality facilitation. So I'm guessing the adult piece will not come in this spring. I think the real robust part of bringing adults into the project will happen at the beginning of next year.
And I'm not sure concern is the right word, but if I'm reading you right, what I hope to see is not just working with our kids, but also working with our adults that are working with our kids to work more effectively, if you will, with our kids. I mean, is that, and I'm going to use the word professional.
Yeah, I mean, on the Margins is not necessarily an adult-centric group, right? Their target audience is empowering youth and empowering youth voice. So my understanding, and talking to Dr. Dominguez and looking at their website and their materials, and listening to some others that have worked with this group, is that It's kind of flipping the script, and it's empowering the students to do the professional development. And so a good example of that would be the youth, what do we want to call it, panel that happened during the Professional Development Day in January, where actually four students, one wasn't present, were invited to provide some information to the faculty about some slurs that are being used and how it's affecting them. So it's not necessarily on the margins providing unconscious bias training directly to adults. It's empowering the youth to have the youth tell their teachers, tell me, tell Superintendent Vandenheuvel what they need and how we can be supporters of what needs to change in the school.
And it's worth noting, we're on, right? Yeah, that if we were to do professional development for the teaching staff or the classified or anybody, we would use a different provider. A different provider to do it. That's not what this contract is for.
And okay, so I'll do this shortly because that's not about this contract, but my concern is that this past year we've had a presentation by the students. I think we all thought it was very strong and meaningful. Following that, we had a comment by a faculty member, I'll leave it at that. And then subsequently, I believe it was at the last staff, what is this, a board meeting? Not a staff meeting, thank you. The last board meeting, Ms. Pollock stood up and said that the students wanted to come, but were fearful to come. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm speaking to the adult, if you will, so we help us adults understand better, behave better, if you will. And so my concern is that we move in, obviously, our kids. I mean, I think this is great for our kids, right. I hope it is. But I think we also have work to do with our staff.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you.
Well, I just want to thank you for all of the work that you did and working with all of these different organizations to come down to bringing this contract forward on the margin. Because I think that speaks loudly to our students that their voice does matter and that we're not just dropping the ball because maybe there was some concern. Their voice does matter. And so thank you for all of the legwork that you did to bring on the margins contract.
Yeah, and I wish it would have been faster, but we wanted to do our homework and due diligence to choose a provider that really met our need. So thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
No, I would just echo that I'm really excited to see Dr. Daniela Dominguez working with students in Healdsburg. She has worked with students in Sonoma County just in general, so she has a sense of feel of what students are experiencing in Sonoma County. I don't think it's just Healdsburg. It's Sonoma County as a whole, and we've seen it in some other settings where students are, expressing some concerns, some worries, also celebrating successes in their schools. So really excited to see Dr. Daniela Dominguez, excited to hear back from students. I echo Mike's point as well. I think that if students are moving the ball, us as adults should as well. I think we owe it to the students, and I think there's a power dynamic there, right? Teachers are teachers, staff is staff, faculty is faculty, and board is board. And so just to acknowledge that there's a power dynamic between students and adults in campus is important. And so yeah, if we can move the needle towards more of these spaces for adults in our schools to be able to participate, I think I'd be more content. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the contract with on the where'd it go? On the margins?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Erin.
Yeah.
Next, we have 12.2E, Benchmark Advanced English Language Arts and Development Curriculum. Is that English Language Development?
Yeah. Yep. So no slides. Again, just a little bit of background. Probably best to put your eyes on the packet. So as explained in the cover sheet, In 2017, Healdsburg Elementary adopted Journeys for grades K2, and FMC adopted Benchmark Advance for 3-5. This was the first set of core curriculum that was aligned to the new Common Core state standards. So that was back in 2017. Been working along and you know, enjoying the curriculum for the most part, but there's been revisions, major revisions by most of the large publishers. We've learned a lot in these last 6 years of implementing the Common Core state standards, and both the principals, I, and the teachers are like, it's time to take a look, and it is time to take a look because we had a 6-year adoption, so we're coming to the end of the 6 years. So we convened a committee at the beginning of this school year. We had a teacher from every grade level, K through 5, along with a reading specialist from the K2 school and our district library media teacher, so well represented in addition to our principals and myself. We started with the process of looking what is, right? What do we have? What do we like about it? What don't we like about it? And then with that, trying to see if there was anything that could fill those holes of what we didn't like about the curriculum that we had. And so we did a robust review of all of the new material in terms of just, reviewing what was there, listening, reading. We were meeting monthly, and when it came down to it, Benchmark Advance rose to the top once again for all grades. It's a little unusual to have 2 different publishers, 2 different curricula in K2 and 3-5. When we adopted a little more than 6 years ago, the Benchmark Advanced curriculum just didn't have the early reading, the phonics, the phonemic awareness that we wanted to see at that time. Since then, Benchmark Advance has done a pretty major overhaul, and I'm going to let our more skilled principals than me talk about it because they've been, walking the classrooms, talking with the teachers more frequently than I. So we began a pilot in early January, and the teachers were like, man, we want this stuff like the day we start in January. So we hustled, got the stuff into their hands. So they started the new year with Benchmark Advance and have been piloting that curricula. And so we're pretty happy with what we see. I'm going to let Principal Doherty give a little bit of flavor about what's happening and what she's hearing and seeing, and then Principal McGuire, and then we'll come back and talk about next steps.
So one of the big additions to reading or English language arts curriculum since 2017 is a real understanding of the science of reading. And at the time when Benchmark first was an option, our teachers piloted it back in 2016, I guess, and determined that it didn't have enough phonics for them. And now that we've been using Journeys for some time, it doesn't really align as well with the science of reading as we would like. So we're seeing that reflected in scores. We are seeing a good percentage of our students gain proficiency in English language arts by the time they finish each grade level, but it's not enough. And so if you want to get the same results, keep doing the same thing. So we want to get different results. We want to get better results. And so our teachers looked at just everything under the sun that's out there, and really were impressed with Benchmark Advanced 2022 version, which is, I know it's 2024 now, but it's still really brand new. It's like the most, there might be one other recent curriculum that's even close to that new. It has some really strong components in phonemic awareness and phonics that are created by Wiley Blevins, who's a really well-respected curriculum writer and professor that really just made this program stand out in a way that others didn't. So to kind of make that long story short, we did get to pilot it starting in January, and our teachers loved it. Now, do they love absolutely 100% every little tiny tidbit? Of course not. There is no curriculum that is perfect because all teachers are different. All classes are different. All students are different. And so there's always going to be the need to really deeply think about and use a teacher's own discretion in terms of their art and science of teaching. But we do think it's a very strong curriculum, and we're excited to move into this new curriculum for next year. It also has a really strong ELD component. It has, so Benchmark Advance, Benchmark Company also makes Benchmark Express, which is a brand new ELD. It can be used as a standalone, but it does match up with the same stories and themes that are used in Benchmark Advance. And that's actually where our ELD interim assessments have been coming from, is from that program. And so now HES is using those interim assessments for ELD as well. And the teachers are super excited to be using the ELD actual program that goes along with it. I don't know, what else should I say? That sounds pretty good. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about K through 2 or TK through 2? Because
I
it
have a
actually
question.
is TK.
So looking at the K curriculum, so I always wonder about this, right? Because most of the publishers, Open Core, Wonders, everything I've looked at, has a very slow scope and sequence for K. So they don't even get to all the sounds until the end of the year. So of course you're not going to have readers by the end of the year. So I'm wondering what benchmark looks like with that, because that's a concern to me, because if we don't teach the students all the sounds by January, they're not going to be readers and writers by the end of kindergarten. Which is
I do definitely hear what you're saying. So then with Benchmark Advanced, there's a 4-week kind of starter. It's kind of like a boot camp, if you will. And the first week is really teaching kids how to handle a book, you know, how to be in the classroom with a book and with a reading curriculum. So it really goes through and teaches those pieces and lessons. And then but even during that time and through that first 4 weeks, the kids are getting exposure to all of the letters, and by the end of that time, they're already starting to blend. Now, they do, from that point, they do 24 weeks in a row of a letter of the week. But at that point, they've actually already introduced all the letters and are beginning to use those letters to solidify blending. So that 5th week, let's say, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to pretend like the letter is A. The letter of the week is A. They don't necessarily go in order like A, B, C. But if it's A, then they might go ahead and start blending can, man, you know, hat, tap. And then they're just adding on with those consonants for the next few weeks. And yeah, so it's really, I agree with you about the letter of the week. I think it definitely moves way too slow. But having that 4-week boot camp is a real strength.
to go visit and see that.
Great, yeah, and I'd love for you to take a look at if you wanted to take a look at one of the books, we have them. So you're kind of like me, little curriculum nerd there. You'd enjoy taking that home and reading it at night. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I said a curriculum nerd, and that's a compliment in my eyes. Anyway, any other questions? Okay, great.
We'll open it up here. Yeah.
So I want to start by saying, you know, Benchmark Advanced was the adopted curriculum at FMC since 2016. We really went into this though with kind of openly, we're not expecting to re-adopt so the teachers from FMC, Julie Poor, Stephanie Fife, and Lisa Phipps, really were expecting to, you know, potentially adopt something else. So we looked at all of the options and really came back to Benchmark Advanced, and especially when we saw the changes that were made was exactly what the teachers would have designed themselves. Again, as Tiffany said, nothing's going to be 100%, but the things that we have noticed, and particularly in the 3rd grade team, is the phonics and the supplemental materials as they relate to interventions, and the phonics instruction is really strong. As well as other supplemental materials, they have these comprehension quick checks, fluency quick checks. So whether you're using that in the classroom or as we work towards the MTSS and the PLCs and really looking at standards and our essential standards and finding ways to measure student progress, there's a lot of materials that are in Benchmark. The TCRs that they're called, are the text for close reading, which are like the readers that the students work in, have really great graphic organizers now in them. And then kind of second to that, but also just as important, is the diversity of the texts. Was what teachers just keep, but you know, in piloting, most of our teachers were all on unit number 7 in the different grade levels. in January, the teachers that piloted, and the thing across the board that they said and were excited about was just the different perspectives that were represented, the authors and the stories and the diversity that has been included in this update. And so we are excited and to be able to adopt and move forward with keeping Benchmark Advance as our curriculum, so the teachers kind of know it, but it's also brand new, and there's a lot of new components that we're excited about bringing on board in next year.
And I love that it'll be consistent.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and then the addition, like I said, those things that Tiffany talked about that are were added at the K2 really for us as well. So
thank you.
And also, you know, when you said that, sorry, Trustee Romer Flores, but one of the things that our third grade teachers have talked about is that transition from second grade. So in the past, the second grade teachers have done, or at least looked at the Benchmark Advanced unit end of second grade, so they'd be used to it, because it's very different than Journeys, and so now that consistency we're excited about too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to mention, when she said her teachers' names that did the piloting, I felt really guilty. So thank you so much to Amanda Borges in kindergarten, and Patty Gomez in first, and Maggie Alcala in second for piloting for us.
So to bring it home, just one more thing, you know, it is ELA/ELD, so there's both the integrated and the designated ELD, and I don't know if you caught that Benchmark Advance sells Express, which is the designated ELD, as a separate package. So you can buy that if you aren't happy with whatever your core curriculum is, you can buy it. The thing that we liked the most about it, and that we keep hearing from the teachers, is that that designated ELD draws in what they're already learning in the classroom. It's the same themes, it's the same stories, so it's not like, oh, I'm doing this, and then in my small group for designated ELD, it's a totally different concept or story, and that it's meshed together, feels really good. Erica brought to me a couple of years ago the need for the interim assessments, and even though we didn't have the curriculum at HES, we were able to you can buy the assessments as a standalone product as well, and so we started that already this year. So it's a very robust curriculum. I gotta tell you, you know, it's $100,000 for 6 years. That's all of the print material, that's these text for close readings that come every year, consumables that the kids write in, all the assessments. It's the full package along with free professional development to get us going. We already have a date kind of earmarked in anticipation that this would be approved in the next board meeting. So tonight is just a presentation. We'll have the materials out and visible for people to look at. If you all want to come by the schools and take a page through, and then we bring this back at the next board meeting for your approval. So you're not approving tonight, we're just discussing tonight.
I just wanted
Is
to.
everybody available for, oh, sorry,
No,
Chris,
go
go ahead.
I just wanted to say I'm really I'm happy that it worked out that the two curriculums could be just contiguous, and that the changes are consistent with kind of what we're going for. And I just wanted to add that, you know, it's getting dark and late, so I won't talk too long, but just that I really appreciate you talking so much about the teachers, you know, kind of feedback, opinions, buy-ins, how all the piloting went. I think that's a great way to pick something, and it's just really cool to hear all the hard work and process that went into making this selection. Thank you.
I just had a question about when the curriculum is available for viewing already.
We do have it.
Yep, it's on site, so you guys could stop by and peruse it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
All right. Reports. Do we have a HUF report?
No.
Do we have a HUD report?
I am like Dave Hubble. I'm stepping in for Robin today. Robin's at another board meeting. She's sitting up where you are because she's in the Geyserville School Board. I want to talk about three things. Just one, I'm glad that Erin found a new person or group to carry on the HHS design team. Okay. I second Trustee Lopez's comment that this is a local group, and I think they will understand our students very well. Just from what I've read, I think it's a great call. Okay. Number two, I don't want to like spoil the party, but Debbie is going to be announcing some great that our district's in great financial position, which I'm sure you've read your board packet already, so you already know that. But which then leads us to our negotiation, which is starting in April, and we look forward to sharing and working well and working together with the whole HUSD team towards negotiating for the teachers, and which what we negotiate tends to then leads to the negotiations for the whole entire district, honestly. On a personal note, okay, back to the HHS design team. Trustees, I'm not really sure all that you hear, okay? I'm not sure you hear everything, okay? Because after that Wednesday meeting that, as you said, Mike, Trustee Pottencell, that a faculty member presented something, I came home on Friday and my daughter said, "Dad, are you the math teacher that shut down the HHS design team?" Okay? It's my daughter who's hearing from students who are on the team. And I have been here a long time. I have very good relationships with my students. And that consultant had somehow communicated that we were shutting it down. So I applaud Aaron, I applaud Chris to take care of that situation and move forward with a new consultant in this position, because I was shocked and my daughter was surprised that I would ever do something like that. Okay, thank you.
Is there a CSEA report?
I don't see a CSEA rep.
Student trustee report?
Yes.
I'd like to get one of my reports out. I too am not, hopefully, yet as tall as Mr. Van or Mr. We'll see. So I'll start with Healdsburg Elementary School. We have a lot going on in our district the past month and coming up here soon. So we'll start with the elementary school. The PTO sponsored a book fiesta on March 8th. So basically there were a bunch of books that were donated to the elementary school, and students were able to take books home and during school hours, and basically just were able to take home this wealth that was donated by the community. So it was a great event, and from what I hear. March 8th was also the Read Across America Day at HES, so they had guest readers. It was a great event. This week before spring break is Spirit Week for HES, as it is for, missed that. Spirit Week for the high school is a different week. So Spirit Week for HES is this week prior to spring break, and the Spirit Days were selected by students who are in the privilege through collecting who earn the privilege through collecting donations through the PTO Kindness Giving Drive. So thank you to all of them. And then one student chose a plastic-free day as her Spirit Day, and it is planned for Thursday, March 14th. So that should be very interesting. Moving on to Healdsburg Junior High. The leadership class gave a tour to the West Side students who around the school and possible incoming students. And the Alexander Valley School will come in April, so we look forward to that. Trimester 2, sorry, my notes are all jumbled today. I didn't read them a second time. The 8th grade class went to Robert Ferguson Observatory, and so there were many good reports coming back from that. And they're working on the master schedule for next year for all the students. Moving on to Fitch Mountain campus, the 5th graders went to Walker Creek Ranch for their science camp. very good reviews from the students and from the parents who attended. And the Trimester 2 awards ceremony is this Friday, and report cards are also going home for this trimester. All please check your Facebook accounts this Friday, as it has been reported Principal McGuire will surprise students with something, I'm told, crazy for their fundraising achievements this past month. So look forward to that.
We get a preview tonight.
So, and the LPAC testing also begins on Monday, April 1st. It's closing for, and so moving on to the high school, the FFA Club traveled to Ferndale for their state awards banquet. We had many students receiving their state degree proficiencies, and we had 2 proficiency award winners. And one of them also moved on to state, and I believe won at state, Dante Cavallo, so he will be presented at the State Leadership Conference. And then they will also travel to the State Leadership Conference in Sacramento later next week, which is also our spring break. Spring sports are in full swing, so that includes quite a few: baseball, badminton, tennis, and track and swimming.
Softball.
And golf.
And golf.
See, I told you there were quite a few. So they're all in full swing. All the teams are doing great. Both our softball team and our swim team played against Pioneer today, and they both did wonderful. And then leadership classes planning for prom and the Spirit Weeks in the coming spring months and season. So are there any questions on any of that?
Busy, we're busy.
We are busy, yes. Coming into the busy season.
That time of year, yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Board of Trustees?
I'll be able to make it quick because Trustee Pearson covered 2 of mine. One is the Plastics Day at HES tomorrow, and also the Read Across America Day last Friday. So thank you for elucidating that. Two things to report on. The elementary ELAC was held last week, I believe. And our superintendent went over the LCAP with those in attendance, and again did a great job. It's solicited and elicited things that were going well, and also some suggestions for improvement. So I think that should be, they will be incorporated into the LCAP as it goes. Fourthly, I guess it is now. I mentioned Ms. Bullock's comments at the last meeting, and her comments, which were, I guess, spurred on by the Gender and Sexuality Alliance students. One of my concern was greatly raised, and so I had asked the superintendent if she would set up a meeting with those students that she was representing. And so we did go over last week. The superintendent and I had met with them during lunch, and just wanted to hear. And the things, I don't know how to say this politely, so I'll try. The things I heard were disturbing. And I don't use that term lightly. They raised much concern for me because the things that were voiced were how our kids are treated. And I want to get into how other kids treat them, but how adults have responded to them. Not just about the performance, and that's one thing, but just I think in general. And so I point that out, and this is why I guess one of my questions to Director Fender regarding this consultant, yes, I understand it's for kids and that's great, but I think it appears to me that if our adults are making our students uncomfortable as well as hurt, then we have work to do. It's a tough question, I understand that, but we have to do the tough things, and I hope that we do. So I call on, our man, Mr. Superintendent, to lead that, and let's get it going, and not wait till next year. But whatever we need to do, we need to do it, because all of our kids. And I was tempted to read the board policy 410 which is basically our equity policy, and everybody, every student, every teacher, every staff member is included in that equity. So I hope that we follow that policy henceforth. Thank you.
Anybody else? I just want to publicly thank Greta Messick for Brad, because that was a lot of work, and you know, she just makes everyone feel so welcome and has books ready for everybody to read, and so I just want to thank her for that. That was a really wonderful event, so thank her on our behalf. Please, Tiffany, and thank you as well, because I'm sure you participated in that too, so thank you so much. It was a great event.
I'll just add that it is so much fun reading to the students. They were so inquisitive and just super fun and wonderful to be around. And I read some old faves to them, and I just was so happy that the old faves continue to please.
On that note, I would also like to add, I read to Mrs. Gomez's class, and I walked in there without a book, and Marigold, one of the students, helped me pick some pretty cool books that were first timers for me as well. And we picked some books that were just English, and we picked some books that were bilingual, and we voted in class. We read 2 books, one that was in English and one that was in Spanish, and I can just tell by students' reactions and their engagement with the books how much they love reading and how much they love reading in Spanish as well. All of the students were so curious to learn new words. They were so curious to talk about the terms in the book. So kudos to Greta and all of the teachers, all of the parents, and all of the students for developing this love for learning and reading and learning new things just in general. So all that.
It was fun.
Yeah, so thank you. All right, so can we take a 5-minute break?
Yes.
Okay, so we will be back at 8:01.
6 after.
I think so. Hot
Don't worry, I've seen I haven't had a free moment.
Yeah, when you have it, and it's in like towards the end of the year.
Thank you so much.
I'm here for you.
Just wanted to make sure I wasn't throwing you off.
No.
Yeah, it is. We used just for emails in my last school because it was a dual language school. So later, nothing for like 2 weeks.
Getting turned off. Because my daughter sent me a thing saying like well, it was a tweet from the ACLU about it, so I don't know, but I
But also, the new iOS update.
Anybody else going to the restroom?
Issues are a little serious. When the new iOS update comes out, we can download an app from another country. I don't know if I read that right.
oh, then you just get like
The extension. And it's
yeah, because it's connected so tightly with the Chinese government, and so it's like basically it's just saying that sort of like the Chinese government has everyone's information, everyone's everything.
So somebody shared that.
Well, that's what
They've been working on it for a while.
yeah, they've been talking about it for a while. And I think maybe there's like the compromise is that they can sell certain parts of the company to like an entity in the United States so that these laws apply, but I don't go beyond that because my daughter just like I won't let them get Snapchat until they're in high school, but then it's kind of been right, but then it's been this whole ridiculous back and forth where like their TikTok use is like so crazy, and I did let them get TikTok, and so then I was kind of like, look, if you get rid of TikTok, I'll let you get Snapchat, and you can just sort of like trade off, which I didn't really want to do, but it's like this cat and mouse game that just goes on for all time. So they're almost.
I feel like, I don't know, which I didn't learn until last week. I don't have social media. I have TikTok, which I don't use. I just watch, right? Like, I don't post anything. I really enjoy about that. Like, I'll watch my shows, and then you can go on TikTok. And, like, people
Oh, yeah, no, I love the
episode, and I love
responses, are so good.
Yeah, I love just like hearing other people's thoughts on episodes. But I don't like watching I don't like ads, so that's like one thing. And I don't like watching long videos, like 20, 30 minutes is too long. Give me the information quick, which is also, I heard, a problem with TikTok. Like one of the questions is that you're just like reducing the time that students can like focus.
Yeah, can focus to like the length of a TikTok or like an Instagram reel or whatever. Well, I guess reels are longer now. Well, my husband made this sort of valiant effort to get off of social media altogether, but I'm pretty sure that he spends all the time that he used to spend on social media just watching YouTube short, you know, like watching stuff on YouTube. And so I just feel like the whole thing is like such a time suck. But it's different with the kids. Like I sort of feel like my husband and I have our own values that we apply to how we use social media. And certainly like there's moments where it doesn't seem that healthy, but a lot of it is like perfectly fine, I think, you know. But we have like tons of life experience before the pull of social media, but like our kids is completely different. Like they're so addicted, and if they have a chance, my daughter had like 6 hours of TikTok one day when we were on vacation because she like had free time and nobody was telling her what to do. And it just put me back in this position like when they were toddlers where I was like, okay, now we're gonna do something. Come on. And when I tried putting time limits on, they always complain about the quality of the time limits and how like, you know, it's not fair because sometimes when they're not using the app, it uses up the time, and then that's not right. And then their friends are not being able to just do whatever they want because most of their friends can do whatever they want. And it's very
parenting hard.
It's really like, I can't believe how much I resent every single second that I have to spend like thinking about it too. Like when it comes to other things about being a parent, I resent nothing. Like this was the deal. But spending time yelling at them about their screen time and trying to cat and mouse with them and have them do workarounds to figure out how to get what they want online, like all of it just makes me so mad. And all my friends are just like, horrible.
Yeah, I think it's definitely different. You didn't see it.
Oh, they have phones now in 4th grade.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
We asked them, we had like something that kind of phone, like the two schools.
Yeah.
I did not have a phone until I was in 8th grade.
But the thing is too, like even having any, like not having Snapchat or not having TikTok, you know, my daughter is like, I'm like, Snapchat, and she's like, you know, I don't think people want to be friends with me, like they only snap, they don't text anymore, so she's not on text chains, so she's like, feels like she's out and she'll meet a guy and the guy's like in their snap, and like, she's like,
We're going to reconvene.
Text me, call me.
Let's go. I think it's very true. I have
Okay, we're moving on to 12.1, school business continued, so 12.1D.
I'll stay up here for this. So this is the same calendar that was presented to the board last board meeting, had as amenable, and we are looking to pass the calendar for next year.
Any questions, comments, motions to approve?
Nope.
No motion to approve?
A motion to approve.
Do we have a
no comment?
I'll second. All
in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carries.
Years, I know. It's supposed to be normal though. 9 o'clock, 15-minute extension.
12.1E, second interim report.
This slide shows you where we are in our, this slide shows you where we are in our cycle. So the latest thing we had was the governor's budget. And now we are here in March with the second interim. This is just a reminder that the second interim is just a snapshot in time and where we're at this time of the year. It's when I really clean up the budget and I have a better picture of where we're at in the year and what our purchases are going to be and where I think we're going to end up at the end of the year. What's new in the second interim? We received our first installment of RDA money. Estimates for special education. The long waited for salary increase of 10.5% was retroactive to July 1. That is reflected in this budget, and it wasn't in the budget until now. We have expiring one-time funds. We received the governor's January proposal. Doesn't really tell us a lot. COLA will be 0.76, which is a big drop. Doesn't affect HUSD that much, but it's something to be mentioned. There's still uncertainty in state revenue, and CalPERS continues to increase. I wanted to give you a snapshot of where we're at with COVID funds. This shows you all of the dollars we received, deadlines, and where we're at. And as you can see, we only have ESSER III dollars left, except for just a few dollars on a couple resources that I will be expending in the next month or so. As you saw earlier in the consent item on the ESSER III, I presented a new plan showing you where we were at with the $632,000 and where the expenses will be. In case you didn't look at it, I'll mention to you that a good amount of that is going to the FNC HVAC project. And then the remainder is staffing that we've been staffing all along. We will expend all dollars by September 30th, and we won't be returning any of the COVID funds. We'll be using all of them.
Good job.
This is a picture of the RDA distributions. I wanted to show you where we're at with this. This is a big part of our budget and why it looks like it does right now. I want to remind you that SCO recommends that we only budget 50% of the prior year, which would be 1.5 million. We've already received 2.2 million in our first installment in January, which is over 100% of January the prior year. At second interim, I am doing 85% of the June of the prior year at 931,000. So it's quite a jump. It's quite a jump. We're going up to 3.1 million in my projections. That's 775,000 higher than we were at first interim.
And it's worth noting, when she says SCO recommends we budget 50% of prior year, we get our hand slapped severely in a letter from SCO saying you're overestimating what's coming, but we play chicken with them, and we're usually on the right side of it, because it's not sustainable, usually, not always, but it's not a sustainable practice to drastically, Michael agrees, it's not a sustainable practice to drastically underestimate revenues.
Right.
So, yeah.
This is a picture of the general fund and a comparison between first interim and second interim. Biggest changes being in the salaries and benefits with an increase of over $1 million, and that has to do with the retroactive salary increase. And the other big difference is in the contributions to special education, which is a large increase as well. Here's a snapshot of the multi-year projections. I basically wanted just to show you that we're still deficit spending. If you look down right above ending balance to net for the year, this is just unrestricted side. You'll see that I'm predicting that we will deficit spend by 1.4 million. And we will continue to deficit spend in 24-25, and then positive in 25-26, which is much better than what it looked like at first interim. Even with the deficit spending, as you can see at the bottom, it leaves us with a healthy ending balance.
Will there be a concern, Gary, with the 24-25, because did it dip below the 3%?
I beg your pardon?
Did it dip? I can't really see
No,
something.
25.
Okay.
What?
She asked if it was the reserve dip below 3%, but it's not.
Oh, I haven't
She'll
shown you
get
the
to that
reserves
side,
yet.
yeah, and it's not even remotely close.
No, the reserves are looking pretty healthy here. So here is net for the year with ending balance. This shows you the reserves at the end of 23-24 at 20.22%. 18.25 in 24-25, and still 17.28 in 25-26. Since I've been doing this in this district, that's the highest we've projected 2 years out.
Note, yeah, no. Note that your LCFF district, they're looking at 3%. They'd like to be a little higher than that, but the statutory limit is 3% for all districts. But it is a community-funded district. We have board policy that says we would be 13.33% all the way out. So we're above that into the projections, which is good.
Part of that is, or the good majority of that is us projecting revenues where we think they're going to come in. And I've really tightened up on the expenditures, and we're closer than I've ever projected before. As you can see on the bottom, at first interim, our reserves were at 23.4, 25.7, and so on. It's quite a difference to second interim, and the majority of that is due to the salary increase, because you got to remember that you're going out 2 more years, so your beginning balance the next year is starting much lower. Any questions on the reserves?
Good job.
So what's next? Negotiations, which Mike spoke to, will be starting in a couple weeks here. The May revision for the governor's budget, tighten up on expenditures more. We're starting to clean up purchase orders and wipe out encumbrances that haven't been spent. The sites will be using up their dollars in the next few weeks. By the end of March, we start closing purchase orders and really focusing on our purchases being spent on the students of 23-24. So that'll throw money back into the budget. And we're going to begin working on the 24-25 budget and the LCAP.
If there's a takeaway, we are in a drastically different place than most every other district. You will have seen, if you read the Press Democrat, every other day there's a district laying off dozens of jobs because of A, COVID funding going away, and B, a bad projection on the state budget. We're not as severely impacted by the state budget as most, and we've done a good job budgeting our COVID dollars and creating ways to fold the positions that we hired with COVID dollars either into the general fund or with other categorical dollars. So we're able to keep those going and not have drastic layoffs. That said, we're not immune. There's going to be a few, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
I did want to mention also that in prior reports, we talked about how much staffing was being, COVID dollars was going to staffing in all of our grants. And at this point in time, most of the staffing is in the general fund. So we've been slowly bringing it into the general fund, and we will finish with the 24-25 budget.
Really nice.
I don't want to build your ego, but you two are great.
Let's wait till we close the books.
We're not closed yet, but we're starting to feel like we can project better than SCO and the tax assessor's office, frankly. So, yeah.
Any questions?
Nope, just impressed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so this is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve the second interim report?
I'll move to approve the second interim report.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, Debbie.
Thank you.
And then the applicant for Measured Citizens Bond Oversight Committee action?
Yes, so we have Mr. Chris Anderson, who has applied to be the parent representative on our bond oversight committee. He has a junior high student, lives in the district, and so we're excited to have him. So we need your approval so he can participate in our next one, which will be probably in about a year. So, yeah.
I move to appoint the applicant, what's his name?
Chris Anderson.
Chris Anderson, thank you, to fill the vacancy. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. 12.3 personnel. This is a public hearing. Healdsburg Area Teachers Association contract reopeners for 24-25.
So we received a letter from HADA, or actually, any public comment on their
Is there any
reopeners?
public hearing?
Hearing none, you can close the public hearing. So HADA submitted a letter for reopeners, so it's included in your board packet, and this is just a process where we say we understand this is what you want to negotiate. So. And it is an approval item. So.
And do we have a motion to approve, or any questions about considering accepting the 24-25 HADA contract reopeners?
So moved. Move for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing for Healdsburg Unified School District contract reopeners for 24-25.
No public comments. You can close the public hearing.
And Healdsburg Unified School District contract reopeners.
Same thing, this is what the district has chosen to reopen. You have the letter in your packet. We submitted to HADA prior to the packet. So it's what we'll be reopening when we go to negotiations at the end of April. So.
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Consideration of and possible action of resolution number 24-12 regarding certificated reduction in force.
So Karen couldn't be here today. She's got a close family member in the hospital, and so I'm stepping in for her. This is probably the absolute worst part of our job. I want to stress that what we're doing today is a March 15th deadline by the state required for possible notification of layoff. This is not in stone by any means, but we have to notify the people by March 15th. So it is a possibility. And so we have 2 certificated positions that amount together to only 0.8 of an FTE, a full-time equivalent, so it's an 80% position reduction. One person is being impacted by 0.6, and we believe actually that the city is going to come through with some funding that's going to make that come back, and I'm in communication with this teacher about that, and so they know what's going on, and we're texting about it honestly as soon as I find anything out so that we can alleviate the concern. And then we have another position, it's actually school nurse, who we had we have 2 nurses that together make a 1.0 full-time equivalent. One nurse took a partial leave this year and would like to get back to being a 0.8, so that means the other nurse has to reduce down to a 0.2, and she's willing to do so.
Okay, so do we have a motion to consider possible action on resolution number 24-12?
So moved.
I'll second.
And that's a roll call vote.
President Romo Flores.
Aye.
Vice President Lopez Jimenez.
Aye.
Trustee Papasil.
Aye.
Trustee McAllister.
Aye.
Trustee Lopez Pardo.
Aye.
Student Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Thank you.
And then we have the same, and again, this is relatively new to us. I think it's the 3rd year where we have the March 15th deadline for classified positions. Much different than we had last year. This year, we have the equivalent of 2.3 FTE paras being eliminated, possibly. This is wholly due to special education and kids coming and going and the different services that are needed. One good example is we have not been able to hire a speech therapist in-house, and so we had to contract with an outside provider who provides it remotely. As a result, which is very expensive, as a result, we have to hire a para to be in the room with the student who's talking to the person on Zoom and getting their speech therapy. So we're hopeful this year with some changes that we're going to be able to attract somebody who can be in person, and we won't need the para position. So it's a good thing in the end, but it does mean that somebody's going to be noticed. So it's actually more than just 2.3 people impacted, but it's the equivalent of 2.3 positions. And there's a whole seniority bumping order that is extremely hard to explain, but yeah, it's going in the right places. So.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve possible action on resolution number 24-13?
So moved.
I'll second. Oh, go ahead. No, no, you.
All right, roll call.
President Romo Flores.
Aye.
Vice President Lopez Jimenez.
Aye.
Trustee Papasil.
Aye.
Trustee McAllister.
Aye.
Trustee Lopez Pardo. Student Trustee Peterson.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so Board of Trustee reports, comments, requests for information. Just the same reminder for me for
It's on for April.
next,
Yep.
perfect, okay, great. All right, anything else?